Alright guys, and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about why I think TBC Classic didn't turn out to be as popular as many people expected, and why I think the population of the game is dwindling slightly. I'm not saying the game is dead or anything by any means, but things are definitely on a downward slope. You may not have felt the effects really on a high populated server, but we all have to at least admit that there's definitely a little bit of a tank shortage right now that there wasn't when the game launched, and overall we have to admit that the launch of TBC Classic was nowhere near as big as the launch of Classic WoW. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to analyse every single element of this, and before I jump down my throat, I definitely don't think it's because Blizzard didn't release enough content for the launch of the game, okay, because that would only encourage hardcore min-maxers to quit because they're bored, because they have not enough content to play, and that obviously doesn't represent the majority of the people who play TBC Classic. But nonetheless, I do think the population of the game is dwindling slightly. If we analyse the statistics of the launch of Classic WoW against TBC Classic, I always saw Classic WoW on Twitch with over 900,000 people watching it, whereas the highest I saw TBC Classic launch was over 200,000 people watching it. And all the bigger streamers out there, I don't really think they got higher than usual viewers. In fact, Asmongold right now is getting more views from just playing Final Fantasy than he ever did playing TBC Classic, which I just find absolutely mind-boggling. In fact, many of my favourite streamers have taken a massive tank in viewership, including myself actually. It really does feel like I had, and everyone else had, triple viewers before the game launched, and then when the game was actually launched, then yeah, we just had a massive tank in viewership. And I think the first big reason for this is the nature of the TBC Classic launch and the timing. So let me explain what I think about this. I think obviously the character boost and the deluxe edition and the extra monetization overall of the game has put many people off the entire, Classic WoW experience. Because, a few of my friends didn't even bother to play TBC because of the character boost. It really did just put them off. Some of my friends actually just totally quit Classic WoW because of the boost. They were so against the concept of a deluxe edition and the character boost that they decided to boycott the company entirely. I think overall with the deluxe edition and my character boost, Blizzard have killed the heart of Classic WoW, and yeah, the extra monetization of the game is just totally, it's just kind of ruined it for a lot of people. I don't think TBC Classic had the same spirit as the Classic WoW launch. Plus, you got to think it is also summer, so the timing of the release is not that great, because obviously in the summer people are more likely to be outside with their friends, enjoying the rays and everything, especially as we've had many COVID restrictions which are just beginning to ease up, so people are even more desperate to get outside. It's also a very bad timing because 9.1 has just been released, okay? Many of the hardcore Metaslave gamers who have rushed for content in TBC Classic have very likely gone and returned to play retail instead because a new raid has come out, okay? I think this time round, Classic WoW actually got a lot more retail players than it did when Classic WoW was released, because Blizzard took so long to release 9.1, but people got bored of playing retail, and then more and more people, were bored and just went to try out TBC Classic instead. But obviously now, because they weren't really fully committed to TBC Classic, they've gone back, okay? It would have been better if Shadowlands, obviously wasn't delayed, because by the time TBC Classic was released, 9.1 probably would have been on farm, and then people would have been more inclined to go and play TBC Classic. But this time around, 9.1, was released when it did, and it's basically pushed a player base back to playing retail very soon after TBC Classic was released. I think what would have been better in this situation is if TBC Classic was actually delayed a little bit till maybe September, okay, when everything's getting colder in the outside world, people are more likely to be staying indoors with in their evenings. More and more people would have been bored of retail to give TBC Classic a bit of a spin, and more people would just generally have been inside playing video games at that time. But obviously, there's probably a lot of financial motivation in the background going on, because obviously they probably wanted to meet particular expectations, particular goals financially as a company for this quarter. Because these days, game developers, they're really just the, slaves to shareholders and accountants. That they want to look good on a spreadsheet of their, quarter financial reports or whatever, whatever it's called. That's the only thing they really care about these days, is they care about looking good on a piece of paper to shareholders rather than making the players happy. I mean, we're even at a point where Blizzard developers are actually insulting streamers. Okay, we're actually at that point now, but that's not what this video is about. Let's swiftly move on to another key point. My third point is faction imbalance, and obviously the faction imbalance issue has massively messed up Battlegrounds. Most people who play TBC Classic play Horde, and obviously this has totally messed up the queue times for the Horde side, and this has encouraged many people to quit. For instance, Hamster Wheel, you should go and check out his video. And there's a lot of people who play TBC Classic exclusively because they want to play PvP content, because obviously they really like Arena. It's very fun and a very addictive part of TBC Classic. I definitely understand why people just play TBC Classic just to play Arena and don't even bother playing raids. But they can't do something as basic as farming their PvP gear to be competitive in arenas, because they have to spend 24 hours of playtime to get one piece of blue gear, right? Which is just extremely ridiculous. Okay, luckily Blizzard are fixing this issue with the same faction BG implementation, but honestly it's way too late. Okay, it's way too late because people have already quit, and I honestly don't understand why this wasn't implemented for the launch of a game. Actually, I don't understand why it wasn't implemented in Classic WoW, to be honest, because we had this issue in Classic WoW. I don't understand why it wasn't implemented. Like, people, the Horde side were waiting like an hour for Alterac Valley queues like years ago, almost. So like, I don't understand why they didn't see it as an issue there and, planned ahead into the future. So yeah, that's obviously probably put a lot of people off. It's probably killed a big part of the PvP audience of TBC Classic. Now, my fourth and final reason is other MMOs, particularly Final Fantasy, okay, which has been gaining a lot of traction recently because many of the big streamers like Asmongold have been playing it and absolutely loving it and getting very hooked on it to the point where they are playing more Final Fantasy than playing World of Warcraft. Okay, and this means that Final Fantasy is gaining a lot more popularity and traction because it's occasionally actually been higher than World of Warcraft is on the Twitch section. And this has obviously encouraged the curiosity of many MMO players who have decided to make the switch. Many people are very frustrated with TBC Classic and retail World of Warcraft to the point where they would be, irritated enough to want to go and try out a new MMO. And I don't blame them, to be honest. I mean, me personally, Final Fantasy isn't really my jam, but I definitely want to try out New World when that is released at the end of summer. You've also got to think about how a lot of fans of streamers are easily influenced by the actual streamer themselves and will follow them like a moth to a flame. So I definitely think a lot of the fans of the bigger streamers are probably going to try out Final Fantasy purely because their favourite streamer is playing it. I still think it's far-fetched to say that Final Fantasy is becoming the new WoW killer, but only time will tell. Because like I said, more and more streamers, it seems like I've got like a lot of World of Warcraft streamers on my follow page when I jump on Twitch, and it seems like day by day more and more are in the Final Fantasy section. So who knows what's going to happen there in the long run. But anyway guys, I'm going to end the video there. My name is MetaGoblin. To my next video, ciao.